Um, I'll start, but you should fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
Or I'll go ahead and say hello to everyone. Yeah, hello to everyone out there in Tech Rich land. We're recovering from South by Southwest here in Austin, Texas. It's still going on, and after a week of South by for myself, I'm punching out later today, right after this call. But it's real excited to have you here in the either the live stream or the live audience on Zoom. Um, as you can tell, we're going to bring back kind of the VO Weeklies. For those of you all that know the Tech Ranch for a while, we have a program called the Venture Outfitter Weeklies. We were working out some of the details, but I'm real excited about what Fernando Lavastida is doing with his content cascade process and kind of bringing together the community. Today, the main speaker that he'll be working with, Fernando will give you a little bit of a background about Ana Vic's background. Her name is Ana Victoria Gutierrez. She's from Chihuahua, Mexico. I met her through she's one of the top people at Startup Chihuahua. And so we've gotten to work together over the last few months, or actually, I guess it's been almost a half year if on one project called the Chihuahua Innovation Engine. By the way, I'll do a real quick commercial for the Chihuahua Innovation Engine, and we'll make sure that Anavik will probably do the same as well, just because it's a really important program in building these bridges around the world and helping entrepreneurs, especially the pioneers and the revolutionaries, the people that I really care about. Part of what we're doing is we're opening up these markets and making it easier for you to land into them. And specifically working with the state of Chihuahua, the idea is we're helping to shape what's happening, like bringing in innovators from other parts of the world to shape the supply chain in Mexico, and specifically the state of Chihuahua. Anavik is the head of that program, and it's been really great to work with her because she's got a very strong strategic mind. And so it's been my pleasure to get to work with her. But she'll give us a little bit more about it at some point in her presentation. And with that, I'm going to step back, and Fernando and Anavik have kind of a program designed for interacting with each other. Um, know that I'm a fan, Anavik. Well, she goes by Anavik or sometimes Vicky, but Anavik is what she that I know her best as. But thank you for being here today, Ana Victoria. I appreciate it, and thanks, Fernando, for leading these community conversations because I think they're really important as we build up this community of practice around Tech Ranch, around helping innovators, the pioneers, the revolutionaries, kind of really shape the world into the place we want to see it go. Thank
Mm.
y'all.
Yeah. So just before I give Anna Vic the stage, because I know everybody's chomping at the bit to hear from her, I interviewed Anna on Monday to get a preview of her talk. And what's really fascinating is that she's going to talk about some stuff that MIT discovered in some research, and obviously she's adding more items to that. But there's really a checklist of about 30 items that Anna Vic is going to share with us, items that you really need to be successful as a startup tech entrepreneur, mostly, right? A lot of them are personal stuff, but a lot of them have to do with the ecosystem. And I know that Tech Ranch is all about the ecosystem. So without further ado, Anna Vic, take the stage. You can share your screen, you can do whatever, but the stage is yours.
Thank you, Fernando. Thank you, Kevin. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to see you guys here. Um, I'm going to use Samuel's example, and I'll give you here my LinkedIn in case you need to reach me after uh, this session. And yeah, I'm very excited to share with you this thing that it's what I've been researching and what we've been doing the last years. And I think it can be very helpful for you guys if you haven't heard, or even if you have heard about all of these things. And you will figure it out that as we go through the entrepreneurial pathway, there are many things that come up to our minds that are different in a different perspective we had in the beginning. So that's a little bit of what I want you to think about this morning. I call this little talk the Innovator's Playbook. It's not that there's a playbook or that there's like a way to be a better innovator, but the science says that there are several things that if we do or if we incorporate, we can have a more rate of success. So this is what I encourage you to transform not just you, but your company, but also your regions. And I'll let you know a little bit about this story. As Fernando and Kevin said, I'm Ana Victoria Gutierrez. I'm from the scientific background. I love research. I love doing very nerdy stuff. I'm a biotech engineer, and I have had opportunity to work with very important and amazing teams around the world, doing like very wet lab things and stuff like that. And since 2020, I moved into the innovation and entrepreneurship area, more like into the social sciences research because of a personal interest, but also because of the leadership of some of the persons that I will show you next. So this is what maybe I love, the things that are more structured and go deep into the information. And that's a little bit of the perspective that I've used to understand the ecosystem and the innovation ecosystem that is around me. So most of you maybe don't know where Chihuahua is. It's over here. It's very trendy in Mexico. I don't know if in the US it's the same, that we call the cities by the airport like code. So it's CUU in Chihuahua. We call it CUU. And Chihuahua, Mexico is like a northern state, which is in the border with the US. And my city, which is the capital, Chihuahua City, it's right in the middle. So we're like an island, if we can see it that way, where we have several connections to the rest of the country, but also to the southern US. And Chihuahua has very unique or some particularities depending on the historical context. If you go to San Antonio or those parts in Texas, it's quite similar the way Chihuahua was built. When the city was founded, it was founded as a Spanish colony. So we had a lot of architecture from that era, and the people here in Chihuahua is very hardworking. We have a very historical background. There are very interesting things because during Mexican Revolution, during independence, people used to come to Chihuahua to bring the prisoners because we were so isolated from the rest of the country that no one knew who they are. And some of the main and most important historical people from the Mexican history died here in Chihuahua or were prisoners here, or they had like any like relation with the region just because of that. But the things change. And when the first university was founded and the bank was founded and the first technological university were founded, the economic development of Chihuahua depended on the technology. And that was very interesting because in the last century, during the 60s, the first maquiladora or the first manufacturing industry came to the city, and that exploded a new possibility for the region, and Chihuahua became a very manufacturing area. And that's very important because most of the people here in Chihuahua work in a maquiladora, and the maquiladora industry is one of the most important. During the 90s, there was a plan called the Chihuahua 21st Century Plan, when they tried to figure it out how to keep doing technological and industry development. And that was very successful. But in 2018, another plan was required. Many of the jobs that we have here are very boring, if you can say so. They're not innovative. The people here is very talented. There are very bright minds that go to the US or go to other states, or they need to work abroad, because the opportunities for work here in Chihuahua are very limited to the industry related jobs. So in 2018, as a way to change a little bit that perspective, and the Chihuahua Futuras plan was created. And that plan, it's like a perspective for the 2030, in which they are trying to incorporate a little bit of technology and innovation. Was very interesting because it was not only a government plan. This is a plan that came from the main industries here and the corporates and people who wants to like help the economic development of the region. It came from an institution where I belong to, that it's Desarrollo Económico, Economic Development of Chihuahua State. And when we started thinking about those things, very interesting things happen as the MIT REAP program, where all of these come from. So when we start thinking like with this approach, studying Chihuahua in relation to other areas that are very innovative in the world. I mean, everyone knows Silicon Valley, everyone knows what's going on in Singapore, or that are many areas in the world that are mostly innovative. And we were wondering, why are they innovative and why Chihuahua isn't that innovative? And we try to benchmark these cities and try to understand the reality. And once we did like that reflection, the leader of the ecosystem, which is Luis Almanza, he's one of the main persons who started like this conversation and this mindset shift. He was the one that said it all depends on the ecosystem development. That's the first time that I hear the word ecosystem in a context that wasn't biologically, but it's quite the same. An ecosystem, it's all the conditions that require the innovator to be successful. And so that's why we started thinking on the ecosystem perspective. And that was very interesting because the ecosystem of innovation can be potentialized in many ways. And one of the ways that it was proposed because of Luis's like background and experience, he is from Tech of Monterrey and they have several years studying ecosystem. They already knew all of this stuff. And there's a technology park here in Chihuahua that is from Tech of Monterrey, which is one of the most important private universities in Mexico. And he, as the leader of that area, proposed the context or of innovation and technology through startups as a very good option for the region. I usually work in projects like this without knowing they were startups or without knowing the concept of a startup per se. But then as a young person who wanted to learn about everything, I started working in some of the local startups. And that's when Luis invited me to join this idea of how can we shape innovation through startups through a city like Chihuahua. And so there are many things that can be like important from that reflection, and it's that staying competitive requires a continuous evolution, and the startups are a type of economic entity that it's gonna do that every day. The large corporations can innovate faster by partnering with startups, and they can help each other and they can learn together. The startups also can bring some agility and fresh perspective. I mean, there are a lot of things that are good about startups that can help speed up the economic development. So, thinking on all of this, there's a phrase that I love that it's been one of the like the modes that we use a lot in Startup Chihuahua right now, that it takes an ecosystem to raise a successful startup. So it's like Elon Musk or those people, the big names that we already know, they are the product of an ecosystem around them. And so we started understanding the local ecosystem with a lot of research, with a lot of interviewing, with a lot of nerdy stuff, as I told you. And we find that we have more than like a lot of organizations, users, or persons, stakeholders related to the ecosystem, but that there were already in Chihuahua more than 100 of projects or potential startups, and even startups in a good stage of development. So this is like an image of a real picture of how the ecosystem looked like in 2022 when we started thinking about these things. And as you see here, there are a lot of persons and projects that aren't connected with the ecosystem. So the first step we did was to figure out who they were, and then how to connect all of these people that is not connected with the ecosystem with the whole strategy, and try to work in a single strategy for the whole ecosystem. And that was the way Startup Chihuahua was created. Startup Chihuahua, we call them a backbone organization, which means that we are like the coordinators of some operations within the ecosystem that are crucial for the development of the entrepreneurs, innovators, and startups. So we have this this is like the real picture of the organizations that are involved within the ecosystem right now. Almost every university or relevant university is related to Startup Chihuahua right now in a certain way. Also the capital funds, the corporates, the communities, connectors, and media. Kevin talked about the community that you are creating here in TechCrunch, and that's very important because that's one of the main components of all of this strategy, you know. And also the government as good allies, the government in terms of the municipality, but also the state, and now a little bit even the federal government in the way that it's possible, and the service providers that are all of these specialists in incubation, acceleration, account accounting, or lawyers specialized in startups. I mean, there are a lot of needs that the entrepreneurs need, and there this marketplace of opportunities there. So this is us, like in the middle, trying to see what's going on here and there and try to connect. We are like hyper connecting all the things that are around. And so, as you can see, uh, each one of these type of stakeholders is very different, has very particular needs and very particular perspectives. And what we did at that time was to find out the strong leaderships within each of these areas and try to create a team. Luis Almanza's like I talk a lot about him because he was the one that joined these people together, and they were called the core team. In this core team, the objective of this core team was to represent each of the ecosystem areas into one single team that can learn from 2 years from the MIT teachers into a program called the MIT REAP, which is the Regional Entrepreneurship Acceleration Program. If you have a project and you go to an incubator or an accelerator, that project will speed up. And that's exactly what we did, but with the economic development of the city. We saw this economic development as a project, and we incubate, if we can say it that way, the project into this program. This was an international program that many cities in the world have been part of. And what we wanted to know is how can we speed up, the region into that, and try to be a little bit more competitive worldwide, and try to be more strategic with the resources that we have and the people that we have around. So this core team, it's already a consultative team that it's part of Startup Chihuahua. Startup Chihuahua was born as the effort, as the final project, if we can say so, of the core team of MIT RIPS. I've been here since day -1 because in the meantime, they were learning about the ecosystem. I did it as well with all of this core team, and I learned from all of these amazing people too. And we all together try to create this backbone organization that it's now Startup Chihuahua. Startup Chihuahua results from the MIT program in 2023. I give you here a little bit of the QR if you want to see the final video that we presented at that time, and to learn a little bit of what the process is. But the point is, one Startup Chihuahua was born, then we try to represent the interests of the startups and the projects here in the city. We find some of them that are very interesting in many different areas. And for a small city, kind of small city like ours, it's a very interesting perspective because this gives a new and fresh perspective to the innovation in the city. And all of these entrepreneurs are very hardworking. We have learned a lot from them. And one of the things that we have learned from them is that we need to potentialize or try to help the entrepreneurs to have a better pathway and to get things easy. Once they start and they have an ecosystem supporting them, they can reach easily the goals that they have as an institution or as a company. So the main purpose, if you want to say it that way, of Startup Chihuahua is to attract or promote in the region 250 startups for the next 5 to 10 years, and try to structure the risk capital funds with a focus on angel investment, trying to seeking investments of millions of US dollars, and also get that this is kind of hard. This is the trickiest one, but we want that the 5% of the Chihuahua GDP will be counted with the startups and tech-based companies' contribution. I mean, we want them to be part of the economic development, but in a very quantitative way, you know? So once I said that was like a kind of intro. The way we work as a Startup Chihuahua is that we have an ecosystem model. And what we learned from the MIT is something that the Tech of Monterrey already knew. And they had this very useful model in which we can have each of the stakeholders' activity mapped, and each of the entrepreneurial's activity map, and also our activities as a backbone organization into the same logic framework in order to play a little bit of a strategy with it. We see it as the chessboard of the ecosystem, when we can make strategic moves around all of this model in order to have the processes or the programs or the pilots or the strategies that are relevant for the entrepreneurs at a time. So I'll show you a little bit. This is kind of the board we have. And what we did at the beginning was to do a benchmark of more than 20 ecosystems that look alike Chihuahua, not Silicon Valley, not these huge regions, but the ones that are industry manufacturing oriented, and try to understand what was important for them using this logic framework. Once we did that, we did exactly the same, but interviewing our users, try to map the more than 90 trajectories of the entrepreneurs and try to understand what they consider it important for them or crucial for the development as entrepreneurs. And as you can see, there's a gap. But there was another layer of information that we had at the time, and it was the stakeholder engagement. And that was another gap to this model, because the stakeholders wanted to provide certain experiences. That's the way we call them. And the experiences the stakeholders were providing weren't what the entrepreneurs needed. So And if we, as an institution, a recently formed institution, map out what are our capabilities or the things that we can do as an ecosystem or as an institution, what's the sum of all of the efforts of the ecosystem, we had another layer of information that was quite challenging. So what we did in the strategic framework was to join all of these things together and to find out which were the critical points as a strategy that we started performing. And this strategy helped us to be like more um, resource oriented and more innovative as well, but also more strategic with what we wanted to do with the entrepreneurs. And why am I telling you all of this? Because each one of these pain points or critical points, it's made up of indicators or performing indicators, KPIs and OKRs, if you want to see it that way, that allows the ecosystem, but also allows the entrepreneur to have a better pathway and an easiest way to develop within an ecosystem. So if you are an entrepreneur now and you are wondering what I should do as a next step, not only need to see what your company is doing, you can see what the ecosystem that you are in it's providing, and which of the things that it's providing you aren't using, as a resource for growing up your project. And that's very interesting because when we did this trajectory mapping, this is a real board of what happened. And it was very interesting because some of the entrepreneurs, as this one here, for example, they had a very like that perspective of the entrepreneurship and the innovation in the region, but because they didn't knew what the region was offering. So maybe the approaches that they have weren't that good because there was a lot of misunderstanding of what the ecosystem had for them. And they were also other type of entrepreneurs, other cases that for them all like everything was magical and perfect, and they were like going like in a very easy way because they weren't aware that their perspective of the ecosystem was very different. They had a very different reality. And maybe for them, they got the right exposure to the experiences, the right experiences in the right time, the right mentorship, the right assets that they can have as entrepreneurs to be a little bit more successful. And the lack of knowledge about the ecosystem that you are part of as an entrepreneur, it's a disadvantage because most of the entrepreneurs that we've studied and that we know use their familiar area and strengths as a leverage. So that's the first point that I want to share with you. Involve with your ecosystem, see what they're offering, and try to incorporate all of those things in your own projects. And if your ecosystem do not have something that you need, you as an entrepreneur can try to create, as we are doing it, the ecosystem that you need. And if you create the ecosystem that you need, you will be helping other entrepreneurs and innovators to be successful as well. It's like a very virtuous cycle. So the point is that once we realize about all of these things, we were wondering, like, what do the main entrepreneurs and innovators in the world have in common? And certainly there are several things in several assets that all of they have in common. And Fernando was telling you that there are more than 30. I'm only going to share 11 with you because these 11 pain points are the most critical ones. Most of them include the others, but I try to summarize it for the time and try to find a way to make it like more deliverable for you. So in the MIT RIP, we find out that there were two concepts that they call ICAP and ECAP. I miss an I here, sorry, but the ICAP and ECAP are like the ingredients, if you want to see it that way, in the recipe of creating a successful entrepreneur or a successful innovator. Some of these ingredients can be mixed in certain ways to create uh, different recipes. I mean, there's not one single recipe for being an innovator, but there are some trajectories that have all of these ingredients, and if they have all of these ingredients, it will be easier to get a better startup or a better venture if you have the access to them. So, considering in that, the first one is the demand and market. And of course, everyone knows that maybe some of these things aren't new for you. Maybe some of of you have been in an incubation program or an acceleration program, but probably no one explained to you before why all these things important. You know that you need to get to your market. You know that you need to target your market, identify your ideal customer, but maybe no one told you that this is because it's one of the main aspects that can give you some advantage as an entrepreneur. If you see it with that perspective, it's different. It's not just the operation of your company, but it's something that it's very rich, that it's going to help you as an entrepreneur. So if you refine your product market fit and growth strategy every certain amount of time, that's what the entrepreneurs that are in the top are doing every single day. And I think this is the most known of these aspects, but there are others. For example, the funding. Um, Most of the people think that only a good idea is enough, but in the real world, we know that it all depends a lot of the money and the funding we have for our projects. And I'm not saying just the sales, but also the funding that an external ally is giving to your project. That external ally can be someone in your ecosystem, some stakeholder, but also an angel investor, the public grants, the crowdfunding. Uh, Most of the entrepreneurs use the bootstrapping strategy. We put our own resources, but if we are prepared to pitch and to have a clear financial plan each step of the project, we can have the access to resources that we probably want if we do not consider this perspective. And if we diversify our sources, that reduces the risk of our companies to disappear. So if you are not considering the angel investment, the venture capital investment, and you only are living from the sales of your business, well, maybe it's a shift of mind that you may do and that can be useful for you. Another of uh, these practical things is the specialized talent. And I will, my dare to you uh, this morning is that you point out each one of these things and try to mark down which ones do you have access right now. If you have access to all of them, I congratulate you because you are in a very privileged way that many other entrepreneurs do not have. And if at the end you realize that some of these things aren't in your radar, well, maybe that could be the next strategic step that you will take for your business. So, in terms of specialized talent, if you have in your team both technical but also managerial roles, you will be in a very good shape if you incorporate these two perspectives. Uh, in the scientific area, there are many startups that are founded by scientists that do not know anything about finances or about managing operations, or that are more focused into the technology development. And both perspectives are important. So if your team, if you're a solo founder, you need to incorporate to your team someone with different skills, complementary skills. And then also, uh, yourself as a specialized talent need to foster the continuous development of your skills and try to nourish your team with new perspectives, with new ways to work, and align the talent that you are considering for each step to the vision that your company has. Another very important one, and this was one that I discussed with Fernanda on Monday, it was the support systems. There are many ways to approach to this. There are communities of people, communities of entrepreneurs, or communities of programmers or of specialized talents that they have some affinity and they can open up their their groups for you to be part of it. But also there are mentorship programs. There are like paid and non-paid mentorship programs. There are incubators, there are accelerators, that they have the the right mentors for you. But also another type of support system are the family and the friends. The emotional support of your family, of your friends, or professionals like psychologists or counselors. This is very important, and many of the entrepreneurs are so focused in the operation that they do not look for to have this like this surrounding them. And at the end of the day, if the company fails, your life continues, and you need to have those structures around you, the networks with your peers, the industry specific networks, but also the ones that are more emotionally, the ones with the people that cares about you as a person, not just as an entrepreneur. I'm sorry, this one was repeated, but the other one was the regulations and the government. The regulations and the government, it's interesting because if you're going to operate your business within a region, maybe you will need to adjust things if you operate in a different region. So understanding the local taxes context, the local requirements and the legal requirements for opening businesses, the registration, the permits, the public policies and incentives, the infrastructure that is available for you could help, as well as the connectivity and the transportation. If you do not consider those things to operate a business in a new region, well, you'll be in a disadvantage because there are many people that already know about these things. Also, the education and the training. This is quite most of the entrepreneurs that I know and that we've known and we've studied are very self-educated, which means that they're always learning. They do not need like a structured education. The academic experience they have it's usually higher, especially when the ventures are technologically oriented or industry oriented. But if you apply the skills that you learn directly to your startup, that will be easier. There are many people that are trying to create a startup from a topic they do not know about. And if the pain that you are solving with your startup is not something that is relatable with your academic background, your experience, or your interest, well, it will be very different to be difficult, sorry, to be a good entrepreneur. So as well, your team needs to be training ongoing. The universities as catalysts of the ecosystem, the partnership that you can have with universities, research centers associated to universities, the talent pipelines, the innovation projects, the alumni groups, the collaboration with programs, internships, R&D strategies, the academics, laboratories, libraries, expert professors that you may have around that will strengthen the activities of your startups. The part of the cultural and the community, it's also another important aspect, because if you celebrate a failure, I mean, if you do not see the failure as a negative thing, and or the risk aversion it's minimum, or if you take risk and you're willing to get something big, and when you are willing to get something big, you have a lot to lose. And that's something we need to be very conscious about. There are many entrepreneurs, not too many uh, persist after a few years. So if you want to be one of those, you need to keep yourself in the line and encourage the collaboration, the inclusion, the diversity of your teams. Uh, Usually the stereotype of the entrepreneur, it's a middle-aged man, white man, with some Ivy League dropped education, and that is not just the only archetype of entrepreneurs. Which one is the one that you have in your ecosystem? For example, in Chihuahua, the archetype, it's a male from the maquiladora industry, uh, about 35 years old, with family and with a full-time job. So those characteristics, if you realize the archetype that you are and the archetype that your ecosystem is helping to, and that fits, that means that you are in a right ecosystem. If not, there are many other ways that you can or many other places you can approach to. TechFrench, for example, it's a very nourished community, and I'm sure that they have a very fresh perspective and many online resources, and that's a very interesting part. The culture in the community, it's not only in the place, in the geographical place. Sometimes that can be done in the internet, and that's easier for us. So participate from networking events, from meetups, from hackathons. I mean, if you're part of that will be very rich for your. Also the infrastructure, if you identify the co-working spaces, the fab labs, research centers, and even the remote options that you may have for connecting other ecosystems. There are, for example, laboratories that you can send the samples to if you need to make some scientific thing, and they can give you back the results. And there are providers in marketplaces from digital environments that you can access to. So try to seek out the spaces that are tailored for your industry needs, not the ones that your family and friends told you or that other entrepreneurs have had. I mean, do the homework, do some research, which are the relevant spaces where you need to be part of. And finally, and one of my favorite ones is the R&D. Once we are trying to go to market and or get a product done, sometimes we forgot about keep pursuing innovation and drive innovation. So if you integrate new technologies or methods, that can make you competitive. Today, for example, artificial intelligence, it's something that everyone talks about, but it's not just because it's trendy. Maybe it is a little bit, but it's because it's a technology that it now has a lot of applications. And if we keep update of all of those trends, things are going to be easier for our startups. So, I mean, this is just a little taste of what this this checklist or this innovators checklist is. But what I would suggest, you should analyze your own situation, identify where, which things make you strong, and which ones do you need to improve, and create a plan about that. Find available programs, networks, mentors, use LinkedIn, use all the tools that you have to reach out to the right persons, the right programs, the right incubators, accelerators. We've seen entrepreneurs that have been in more than 20 different incubation programs or acceleration programs, and that's not a bad thing because you can nourish from different perspectives. But if you go straight to the ones that are going to add more value to your project, it will be less tiring, and it will be a better use of your time and on your energy. Also, in terms of collaboration and sharing, if you grow, other people's grow. So try to exchange experiences with other fellow entrepreneurs. Try to join forums. Sometimes it's easy to talk to someone who understands the perspective that is in the race with you, and do not see everyone else as a competitor. I mean, of course, you need to have care with your confidential information and stuff, but do not keep yourself isolated. Join networks, join with people that can help you. And the tools and resources, we are working in the Startup Chihuahuas platform for a self-assessment and the tailored recommendations for your case specifically in a few months, weeks. I don't know how it's gonna take, but you will find in our website this assessment with some specific recommendation for your case. So I'll let you know once the tool is ready and you can use it, but also you can use any other tools that you find there. I mean, we had access to a lot of information, and I think that the thing is not to have access to information, but what to do with that information, and to have access to the right information and the curated information that can help you speed up your project. So I think most of these things aren't going to be totally new for you. Maybe some of them mm, are very like, I mean, of course, I knew all of these things, but if you see it as a checklist, that will help a lot, and that will help a lot for other people that approaches to you, and you will kind of assess, hey, do this, do that, but with some data on it. And well, I think we still have time for some questions and for some like talking. So if you need us as a Startup Chihuahua and myself as Victoria, this is my email. Feel free to reach me, and I can read all of that you sent to me. So we are here for helping entrepreneurs as you are, guys. And thank you very much. I think it's all that I had.
Thank you so much, Ana Victoria. That was a truly wonderful presentation. I didn't know about so many of those things that you talked about. Wanted to see if you have any questions from the crowd. PJ Christie says, wow. I wanted to know, first of all, the rest of the 30, the rest of the 30, you talked about 11. Is there any way that we can get access to this? Do you have would you be able to share like a white paper or an ebook or something? Or how do we find out about the rest?
Yeah, we will have something about this in the website, in Startup Chihuahua's website. I'll let it for you in the comment box. And for now, we have like this checklist. We are working on the consumables of this work, but definitely once I have them, I'll let you know, guys, and you'll be the first to have it.
Okay, great. Shandy talks about how she's never considered the ecosystem. Yeah, I hadn't either. Go ahead,
Hey,
Kevin.
Anavik, did you want to say anything more about the Chihuahua Innovation Engine by chance?
Yeah, actually, that's what I wanted to share too. And there are ecosystems that we do care about you, entrepreneurs. So Chihuahua ecosystem is opening the doors for you guys. We're seeking for five startups from around the world who wants to come to Chihuahua for a short period of time. For this strategy that we are calling now the Chihuahua's Innovation Engine that we are creating with TechCrunch. Kevin it's been involved since day -1. So if you want to apply, you can go to startupchihuahua.com/attraction, and you will find there an inquiry form where you can leave us the information of your startup, and we will assess that information. And if you are selected, you can be part of this cohort where you get a grant and some nice resources that we are preparing for you. So if you fill the inquiry form, you will have a call with me or someone from the team, and we'll let you know a little bit more about the details of the program and the specific situation. It's more tailor-made because each trajectory is different. So we will try to find out the right resources specifically for your project.
Yeah, and if a chance to work with the Secretary of Economy on this before, like when Anavik mentions day -1, it was actually -2 years. And so there's also a page on the TechCrunch website too. We have a little bit more information about some of the areas. You can find this on the Startup Chihuahua website. This is techcrunch.com/Chihuahua Innovation Engine, all one, no spaces, no dashes, but there's a little bit more information here as well from the TechCrunch point of view. If you want to, you can go to this page too. It's exciting just because a part of the way that that TechCrunch, I got some questions on the LinkedIn stream that I was trying to answer via text and stuff like that. Part of the way that we're, the role that TechCrunch provides to answer the question for, let's see, his name is Syed. Syed was asking what's going on with what is TechCrunch? Is TechCrunch just a traditional incubator? Absolutely not. What we are is we help bridge the connection between the two different places. Part of the thing that Anavik was pointing to, she's like, okay, here's this beautiful map. And by the way, I love what you've done, Anavik, with all the different parts of the ecosystem. But then how do you connect ecosystems together? That's part of our role. There's two different levels. The first level, the top level is, ecosystem to ecosystem. Traditional incubators don't do that, and that's the role that we play. It's because the way that what we want to see is a lot of times to round out an ecosystem, sometimes you have to bring in outside knowledge, outside capability. As an example, the city of Chihuahua has some of the top OEMs in aerospace. Honeywell, as an example, does a lot of aerospace activities there. They have their largest plant in the world in Chihuahua City. The amazing manufacturing capacity, but part of what they're doing, as we see on the maps that Anavik was sharing, is, on this map of manufacturing capacity, if we want to go take on this new way of, like, say drones or something like that, we need this other piece of innovative technology to land in there. That's why this is really powerful. And Anavik said startups, and I use the word startups a lot as well, but I want to make sure I say to the companies that might have been running for 20 years, you can take advantage of the Chihuahua Innovation Engine. Yeah, like as an example, in the last few days, I was talking to a Polish company that's considering applying, and they have amazing technology. They've been in business for 20 years. They don't have the manufacturing might that Chihuahua has, and Chihuahua is like, top of the world kind of, like the Ford plant that it is the most efficient plant in the world is in Chihuahua. Okay, if you have that kind of capacity, but then you have this innovative capacity that comes from a third-party company, that's what Anavik's doing as part of the Startup Chihuahua program, or the Chihuahua Innovation Engine program. Back to what is TechCrunch's job? Our job is to help the ecosystems connect, and our job is to help the entrepreneurial teams, the ventures, gain access to markets. I say it this way: we help global entrepreneurs access markets to drive impact. And the main thing is, you have an emerging technology that wants to meet an early adopter crossing a country boundary. That's what we do. Now, back to how this ties into what Anavik is talking about is on those charts that need, connectivity in certain pieces. That's where we can plug things in. All right, thank you for letting me add that in, just because it naturally ties between what you're doing at Startup Chihuahua and what we're doing at TechCrunch, and hopefully answers the question, Syed, about that. If there's other people that are watching the threads on LinkedIn, and I don't have the Facebook one open, but Declan can let us know if you're responding back there. We'll do our best to answer questions right now. Are there other questions from the audience, like maybe from the studio audience in Zoom, the Zoom room? I tell you what, if you do, raise your hand, and Fernando and I both have lots more questions Anavik, what's the number one thing? Like the REAP program's been running for a while. TechRanch has now been working with the state of Chihuahua for a while. From your point of view, especially since you've gotten to, see so many different ecosystems with your career before you were doing this work, what's the most unique or like what are you most proud of, or what's the thing that's changed the most in this rapid um building of capacity there in Chihuahua? Like give us an idea of like one thing that you personally say, hey, I know that this came out of this.
Mm, I think it's the alignment, as you said, with the industry, because sometimes as entrepreneurs, we want to solve problems that are not related to the environment that we have. But if we know that there are pain points that are also very important business opportunities, and you go through that, I think that's what it makes stronger the ecosystem. And I think that's a better approach, not just do something because you can or you like, do something because someone else in the around you is going to benefit from that. And I think that's my favorite part of all of this.
Yeah, I remember the first few months of being involved in the project. I saw that as well. You know, sometimes there'd be this look of ¿Quién es este gringo? Who is this gringo? Who is this guy? And initially, and now the corporations are, and this is why, by the way, anyone that's listening should apply. Now, the original date has passed. We've gotten the first 50 applications or more. I'm not sure exactly, but there's still, because it is such a popular idea that Anavik and her team have made happen in Chihuahua, there is that openness. It's really interesting because the manufacturing might knows that it can, grab innovative capacity by working with these entrepreneurs. It's great to see that openness. Um, so yeah, thank you I agree with about that. I've seen that in the short amount of time, the 3 years that we've been there, because initially it was like, okay, who is this guy? And now it's much more open.
And I would add, Kevin, also the specialization. I mean, each city has their own strengths, their natural strengths because of the history, of the culture, of the environment. And if each region can specialize into something, I think that's even better for the entrepreneurs. You were saying in one of the talks that you give to Chihuahua's ecosystem, the case of Detroit, they're they specialize into mobility, and that was a strength the city had. But each city, you can have hubs for health, you can have hubs for education, and we already know who these regions are. So consider to move to one of those regions if your project aligns to that. That will open up a new world of perspectives and opportunities for sure.
Yeah, no, it's totally a real thing to see. I mean, part of what I was going to go back to is, for those of y'all that don't know, Chihuahua, the state of Chihuahua is strong in automotive. It's strong in aerospace. It's like one of the leading aerospace places in the world, and definitely in Mexico as well. But like Bell Helicopter is in Chihuahua City. Honeywell is there. I know that a lot of the airframes for Gulfstream are built there. It's just massive. The kind of companies they're looking for advanced manufacturing. Oh, actually, I should say one more thing. Medical devices. The city of Juarez in the state of Chihuahua has one of the top medical device areas in the world. And so if you have technologies that are complementary to that, definitely take advantage of it. So automotive, aerospace, a medical device. The other areas that are interesting is mining is really starting to take off as there's going to be some big mining projects. So if you've done that sort of stuff, the state of Chihuahua and Startup Chihuahua, specifically Anavik and her team, and Andres, who is the executive director, have a grant from the EU in climate tech. So you're in a desert, and there's some interesting things you can do. And the EU, the European Union, has recognized this by giving a grant to Startup Chihuahua's team. And because of that, you can, if you're in climate tech, that's another great place to go. They on our website it says urban sustainability, but you can think of it as climate tech. There's a lot of agriculture there. We introduced a Japanese company into into the state of Chihuahua because of the technology from Japan that takes on some actually a technology that's originally from India that's now headquartered in Okinawa, that came to Austin, that's now connected into Chihuahua. Back to the question that I got online, all those connectivity, that's what we do. That's what we do, is help things hop and find the right markets and stuff like that. But that's another place to take advantage of. And then there's a lot of other things. The other thing that I'll mention, I'm going to be in Chihuahua City. I'll mention this really quick for there's a FinTech conference that's happening. No, I'm not a female, but we do at TechRange have a program for supporting of entrepreneurs that are driving impact. That's femtech.mx. This is on the 25th of Mexico, to 25th of March, and you can read more about this conference. So the conference will be there. I said 25th. It's the 26th and the 27th. I think I fly in on the 25th. And Alum is one of the venture capitalists that's there. Mauricio and I have been working together to support some of the stuff that they're doing. Myra, the woman who started this, is a Mexican woman that based out of Chihuahua that actually started her company in Singapore. So you're going to see a lot of different connections there as well. And I just mentioned that really quick because a lot of times, if you don't know about it, you think, Chihuahua is just the desert with maybe a couple of factories. No, it's quite innovative. Part of what Anavik and her team and just the history is they're bringing alive the innovation that you see on the frontier. The frontier, like it's right there. Go to El Paso and take a left, and you're in the state of Chihuahua. I don't know. Y'all go ahead. I can talk a thousand things, but I'd like to hear from Fernando and Anavik.
Yeah, I have a question about the slide about culture and community, which was one of those things, and specifically the bullet point about being open to risk. I know one of the big things about the Silicon Valley and other very popular or very large ecosystems is the risk tolerance from both investors and entrepreneurs. And I know historically, for example, in Latin America, the risk tolerance has been relatively low. Smaller fundings, not being able, not setting your heights so high. So like not saying, oh, I'm going to change the world, but more like, I'm going to have an incremental improvement in this area. Like how does that particular aspect of your 11 points, how can that help increase the risk tolerance for both investors and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's a very good one. You cannot get risks if you do not have like a solid like foundation first. It's like the Maslow's pyramid. I mean, if you are struggling to feed your family or struggling with your job, you wouldn't have enough like risk tolerance, if we call it like that. And it's not because you don't want it or you're not naturally an entrepreneur, but that you do not have that. So I think the risk tolerance depends a lot on the way your life is built to face that risk. And that's very important because we had here in Latin America, we have poverty and we have a lot of minds and bright people that do not have the best conditions around them. So if we provide those conditions, that can help people to get more opportunities. And that's something that in Latin America it's really common. And I think in the US as well, you may have bright minds that can go to the university, they need to be in a 9 to 9 job to get a minimum paycheck, and doesn't mean that they are not innovative enough. They means that there are other things that need to happen first before you can take a risk like that. And actually that's why the technology entrepreneurship, it's a little bit like it's considered for some people like elitistic or something like that, because you definitely need to have those things covered up to take those risks. But something that we can do as very early adopters of this mindset is that if we celebrate the failures, there are very nice initiatives like fuck up nights, for example. We see the studies, we see we've seen the top ideas, we've seen the brightest minds, we've seen the brightest projects, but no one talks us about what do they what do the pathway they take to get those things. And there were a lot of failures in a way, and those failures are something no one talks about. You go to Instagram and you will see the best way the things are pictured. You go to the LinkedIn and you will see the best pathways and the most coherent career paths, but that's not the reality, and we need to be aware of those things, because it's important to show a good narrative about the entrepreneurship, but not everything is good. And that's something we need to be very, very aware about.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say something about that really quick too, because a lot of people think that it's just about throwing more money, right? They always think it's like we just need more money to throw at things. The thing that I just heard Anavik talk about is it's the cultural shift of making failure okay. The cultural shift of that's the whole power of the fucked up nights. And I joke about that here in Austin a lot. I mean, just because, I have a lot of scar tissue that I like to donate to other entrepreneurs so they don't have to have that. And part of the scar tissue that you donate, it's just saying, I thought it was going to go this way and it went this way. And that's the first thing. The second thing that I just heard in what Anavik said, and it's easy to not hear it because it's so simple, is just the connectivity alone, right? Anavik, it's just the connectivity, getting people to talk. Now, getting to talk about the failures so that's normalized, that's part of the culture, that's important. But the thing even before that that's important is that there was there's the issue of even connecting, right? Just connecting back and forth. Anavik, I think we lost Fernando for a little bit. I'm not sure if well, I know we've gone over our time, and it's really interesting to see everything that's there. I think probably we should be taking things to a wrap. He probably had to go take care of a family thing, because I know that we've gone over a few minutes. Are there any closing words that you'd like to say about your looking to the future and what you're excited to see emerging, and what you're most exciting to see?
I would like to see a lot of purpose-driven entrepreneurs, people who think of their businesses not just as a venture or as a way to get money, but as a way to solve big problems. And I think that's a mindset that we need to have as entrepreneurs. So I think it's a little bit cliche, but it's you fall in love with problems, yes, but you need to fall in love as well as purposes. I mean, you as being an entrepreneur, it's like a full-time job, and you need to be aware of that. And if you are like coherent with that way of living that you are choosing, it's gonna be way easier. So I would like to see all of you succeeding, of course, because the most of us we can succeed, the most of people that I mean, there's like this amount of people that can get in touch with Elon Musk for sure, but maybe we can have the contact with a lot of people around us. And if we are an example or a role model for other entrepreneurs, they will think of this as a possible career pathway and not just a dreamy thing. And I think that's the most important. And the final thoughts about this is, here in Startup Chihuahua, we have an amazing team. For Cynthia, Andres, the director, they're very bright minds, and I know that they're watching this and they're being part of this webinar. So I keep in contact with all of them, with us, and let's see how can we help you guys to succeed as well.
That's really beautiful. And, it is inspiring to get to work with you guys because we see the ecosystem as it's being built. So it's been my honor to get to work alongside with you guys and be connected with you. But so thank you very much, Anna Victoria. I appreciate your insight, your enthusiasm, and the promise that you're pointing to with I wrote that down, fall in love with the work purposes. When we have more entrepreneurs that are doing that are taking the risk, that not only produce good businesses but produce good outcomes, that's where the essence of why to do this work is. So thank you for the inspiration. I appreciate it. Fernando, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to close up, but thank you all for today. And Fernando, thanks for putting this together.
Yeah, no, I think just to let everybody know that the video replay of this is going to be available on the Venture Outfitter YouTube channel, and be looking for a write-up of this on the Tech Ranch blog as well.
Perfect. Yeah, well, beautiful. Well, thank you all so very much for this. It's exciting to see how things are emerging, and this is the type of stuff that gets me excited. With all the chaos of what's happening in the world, especially politically, this is the promise of the future that we can all look for and be inspired by. So thank you all for today. All right,
Yeah.
well, goodbye for today. Thank you all, and let's go change the world to the better together. Thank you, Anavik. Thank you, Fernando.